Rowan Hale woke with his wrists tied to a wooden chair. The room was dark, silent, and far too elegant to belong to ordinary kidnappers. Across from him sat a silver-haired woman in black. She compared his face to a portrait beside her. The painted man looked exactly like Rowan. Then she touched his cheek and whispered, "You have his face." Rowan recognized her at once. Lady Evelyne Viremont was the feared Bloodrose Villainess, a duchess rumored to have poisoned her own fiancé. Rowan quickly insisted she had mistaken him for someone else. Evelyne's expression never changed. "I know," she replied. "The man in that portrait has been dead for 1 year." Evelyne placed a contract on the table. For 7 days, Rowan would pretend to be Lord Lucien Ashford, her deceased fiancé. He would appear at court, fool the nobles, and help expose whoever arranged Lucien's murder. In return, Rowan would receive enough gold to retire forever. Refusing, however, did not seem to be one of the available choices. Before Rowan agreed, Evelyne gave him 3 rules. He must never enter Lucien's locked bedroom, he must never ask how Lucien truly died, and most importantly, he must never make her believe he was really Lucien. Rowan laughed nervously and signed the contract. To him, it was only another performance, just one with sharper knives and richer customers. The next morning, Rowan's transformation began. Servants corrected his posture, handwriting, table manners, and sword grip. Cassian Viremont, Evelyne's charming cousin, taught him Lucien's habits and political connections. Rowan copied everything with ease. Acting had kept him alive for years. Pretending to be one dead nobleman should have been simple. During dinner, Rowan tried to imitate Lucien's cold, formal manner. But after Evelyne criticized his posture for the 5th time, he sighed and muttered, "You were always strict, Evie." The room froze. No one had taught him that name. It was a private nickname only Lucien had used. Evelyne's wineglass slipped from her fingers and shattered. Rowan could not explain where the nickname came from. For one brief moment, he had seen Evelyne laughing beneath a flowering tree, though he had never met her before. Evelyne quickly dismissed the servants and warned him not to repeat the name. But that night, Rowan dreamed of holding her hand while promising he would return from the capital. On the 2nd day, Evelyne brought Rowan to an imperial banquet. When they entered together, music stopped, and every noble turned pale. Lord Lucien Ashford had returned from the dead. Rowan wore Lucien's uniform, copied his expression, and walked beside Evelyne as if the previous year had never happened. Princess Celestine pushed through the crowd and stared at Rowan in disbelief. She had once claimed Evelyne murdered Lucien out of jealousy. Now her hands trembled as she called him an impostor. Rowan calmly answered every question she asked. The princess looked less angry than terrified, as though a buried secret had returned with him. As the nobles argued, Rowan noticed a servant raise one hand behind a curtain. A silver needle shot toward Evelyne's neck. Rowan moved without thinking. He drew Lucien's sword and deflected the needle in a single motion. The blade stopped inches from the assassin's throat. The entire hall recognized the technique. It belonged only to Lucien. Rowan had never trained with a sword, yet his body remembered the stance, the timing, and even the name of the attack. The assassin swallowed poison before he could be questioned. Evelyne pulled Rowan away from the crowd, gripping his arm harder than necessary. For the first time, her cold mask cracked. She looked afraid of what he might be. Back at the estate, Rowan began watching Evelyne more closely. The woman described by the rumors did not match the one before him. She paid for medicine in nearby villages, supported the families of dead soldiers, and protected servants from cruel nobles. Her terrifying reputation was not proof of evil. It was armor. Rowan found a young stable boy hiding an injured hand. The boy feared punishment for dropping an expensive saddle. Rowan treated the wound and took the blame himself. Evelyne witnessed everything from the corridor. That evening, she quietly ordered the boy's family debt erased. She said nothing to Rowan, but her gaze followed him throughout dinner. Evelyne tested Rowan in the training courtyard. At first, he stumbled and complained about the sword's weight. Then Lucien's instincts surfaced again. Rowan blocked every strike and nearly disarmed her. Their blades locked, leaving their faces inches apart. Rowan joked that she looked prettier when trying to kill him. Evelyne actually laughed. The sound surprised everyone, especially Evelyne. Lucien had been honorable, disciplined, and painfully serious. Rowan was reckless, talkative, and impossible to control. Yet those differences slowly drew her attention. She had hired him to imitate the dead, but the moments she remembered most were the ones where he failed completely. At their next public appearance, Princess Celestine cornered Rowan alone. She touched his sleeve and asked whether Evelyne was threatening him. Rowan played along, pretending to fear the Duchess. The princess offered protection if he testified against her. But when Rowan mentioned the night Lucien died, Celestine immediately withdrew her hand. Evelyne had watched the entire exchange. During the carriage ride home, she remained silent until Rowan teased her about being jealous. She denied it, then ordered him never to stand that close to the princess again. Rowan reminded her their engagement was fake. Evelyne looked away and replied, "That does not make her intentions less irritating." Late that night, Rowan found Evelyne asleep at her desk, surrounded by reports on Lucien's murder. He placed a blanket over her shoulders. Still dreaming, she caught his wrist and whispered, "Please don't die again." The pain in her voice erased his usual jokes. Rowan sat beside her until morning, wondering whether she saw him or only the man he resembled. On the fourth day, Rowan stood before Lucien's sealed bedroom. Evelyne's first rule echoed in his mind, but unanswered questions had become more dangerous than her anger. Using a wire hidden in his sleeve, he picked the lock. The door opened into a room untouched by time, still carrying the faint scent of dust and dried roses. Inside the room, Rowan discovered letters Lucien had written to Evelyne but never delivered. They warned that someone inside the palace was watching him. Lucien suspected an attack and feared Evelyne would be blamed. One unfinished letter ended with a desperate line, "If I fail to return, trust the man who carries my ring." Rowan stared at the ring on his own hand. He had owned it for as long as he could remember, though he did not know where it came from. A portrait on the wall showed Lucien wearing an identical ring. When Rowan pressed the two symbols together, golden light filled the room and memories that were not his tore through his mind. He saw Lucien walking through heavy rain toward an abandoned chapel. A masked swordsman attacked from behind while a carriage waited nearby. Inside sat Princess Celestine, watching without emotion. Lucien fell, bleeding into the mud. Before darkness took him, he crawled toward an unconscious young man lying near the chapel, Rowan. Lucien pressed his ring against Rowan's chest and released a burst of golden magic. His memories, swordsmanship, and remaining life force entered the stranger's body. Lucien's final thought was not revenge. It was Evelyne's name. Rowan collapsed beneath the vision just as the bedroom door opened behind him. Evelyne stood in the doorway, but she did not look surprised. She only knelt beside Rowan and removed the glowing ring from his hand. "I warned you not to enter," she said. Rowan realized the truth immediately. She had not chosen him because he resembled Lucien. She had chosen him because she knew exactly what had been placed inside him. Evelyne admitted that Rowan had been found near Lucien's body with no memory of the attack. She secretly followed him for a year, waiting for Lucien's memories to awaken. The 7-day performance was designed to frighten the killers and force the remaining memories to surface. Rowan had never been merely an actor. He had been evidence. Rowan felt every kind moment between them turn uncertain. He asked whether Evelyne cared about him or only the dead man inside his memories. She tried to answer but hesitated for 1 second too long. Rowan removed the ring. "You didn't bring home an actor," he said. "You brought home a corpse wearing another man's face." Rowan refused to abandon the investigation, but he made one decision clear. He would finish the 7-day contract, expose Lucien's killer, and leave the estate forever. Evelyne accepted without argument. Yet, after Rowan walked away, she crushed the ring in her fist until its sharp edge cut into her palm. That same night, Cassian met Princess Celestine beneath the palace. He revealed that Rowan had recovered Lucien's memories. Celestine ordered Evelyne's trial moved forward before the evidence could be shown. Cassian promised to handle Rowan personally. His friendly smile disappeared as he drew the same curved dagger seen in Lucien's memory. On the 6th day, Rowan received a message claiming a witness to Lucien's murder wanted to meet beneath an abandoned chapel. He suspected a trap but went alone to keep Evelyne safe. The moment he entered, hidden soldiers surrounded him. Cassian stepped from the shadows, applauding Rowan for performing his role so convincingly. Cassian confessed that he had delivered the fatal strike. Princess Celestine ordered the murder after Lucien rejected her and chose Evelyne. Cassian helped because Evelyne's execution would leave the Viremont duchy within his reach. All they needed was a dead fiancé, a grieving villainess, and enough forged evidence to connect the two. Cassian leaned closer and told Rowan the one thing he feared most. Evelyne could never love him. Every time she looked at his face, she saw Lucien. Rowan's confidence finally broke. Perhaps the warmth between them had never belonged to him. Perhaps he was only a container carrying another man's final goodbye. Then Cassian made a mistake. He mocked Rowan's jokes, disobedience, and habit of protecting strangers. He said Lucien had never behaved that way. Rowan suddenly understood. The moments that softened Evelyne were not memories of Lucien. They were choices only Rowan had made. Whatever she felt, it had begun after the performance failed. Rowan pretended to surrender and offered Cassian the ring. When the guards moved closer, he tossed it into the darkness and shouted that it was breaking. Everyone rushed toward the sound. The ring was only a metal button from his coat. Rowan slipped free, stole a sword, and escaped using equal parts acting, luck, and Lucien's instincts. Meanwhile, Evelyne stood before the imperial court in chains. Princess Celestine presented poisoned bottles, forged letters, and paid witnesses. Every piece of evidence claimed Evelyne had murdered Lucien. The emperor, unwilling to accuse his own daughter, prepared to sentence the Bloodrose Villainess to death before sunset. Just as the verdict was announced, the courtroom doors crashed open. Rowan entered, covered in blood and rain, holding Lucien's ring above his head. The nobles gasped at the sight of the dead man once more. Rowan looked directly at the throne and said, "Lucien Ashford cannot testify, but his final memories can." Rowan pressed the ring against the court's magical mirror. Golden light spread across the hall, projecting Lucien's final night for everyone to see. The nobles watched Celestine order the assassination and Cassian drive a dagger into Lucien's back. For one silent moment, even the emperor could no longer deny the truth. Cassian charged from the crowd, desperate to destroy the ring. Rowan blocked him, but exhaustion slowed his movements. Cassian's blade cut across his shoulder and forced him to one knee. As the guards hesitated between their orders and the truth, Cassian raised his sword for the final strike. Evelyne shattered her chains with forbidden blood magic. Crimson roses of light erupted across the courtroom and wrapped around Cassian's arm. The spell began tearing through her own heart, but she refused to release it. "You took him from me once," she said. "You will not take Rowan too." Rowan rose and used Lucien's final sword technique. Cassian recognized the movement and prepared the perfect counter. But at the last second, Rowan changed the attack into a clumsy feint he had used during training. Cassian fell for it. Rowan disarmed him and placed the blade against his throat, not as Lucien Ashford, but as Rowan Hale. Princess Celestine attempted to flee, but the imperial guards finally moved. She and Cassian were arrested before the entire court. Evelyne's chains were removed, and every charge against her was dismissed. The nobles who once called her a murderer now bowed in apology. Evelyne ignored them all and went straight to Rowan. Evelyne caught Rowan before he collapsed. He expected her to call him Lucien, especially after seeing those memories again. Instead, she held his face and whispered, "Rowan, stay awake." It was the first answer she had given him without hesitation. As darkness closed around him, he realized she had finally called the right man back. Rowan woke in Evelyne's mansion on the final morning of their agreement. His wounds had been treated, Cassian awaited trial, and Celestine had lost her title. The mystery was over. On Evelyne's desk, the original 7-day contract remained beside a bag of gold. Rowan had completed his role exactly as promised. Rowan returned Lucien's clothes, sword, and ring. He told Evelyne the performance was finished and that he would leave before noon. He could not spend his life wondering whether she loved him or the memories he carried. Evelyne listened quietly, then asked whether he truly believed she could not tell them apart. She described Lucien as calm, patient, and unbearably noble. Then she described Rowan as loud, greedy, reckless, and incapable of following instructions. Lucien had never climbed through her kitchen window, insulted a duke, or made her laugh during a duel. "I mourned Lucien," she said, "but you are the man I refuse to lose." Rowan asked whether he was still free to leave. Evelyne picked up the 7-day contract and held it over a candle. The paper burned between her fingers until nothing remained. Rowan relaxed, believing she had released him. Then the mansion doors slammed shut, followed by the unmistakable sound of every lock turning at once. Evelyne placed another document on the desk. It was a marriage contract already bearing her name, with an empty line waiting for Rowan's signature. He stared at it, then at the locked doors. Evelyne calmly explained that the previous agreement had expired. This new one, however, would last considerably longer than 7 days. Rowan backed toward the window, only to discover it had also been locked. Evelyne wrapped her arms around him from behind and rested her head against his shoulder. Her voice was gentle, but her grip left no room for escape. "You pretended to be my fiancé," she whispered. "It is only fair that you accept the permanent position." As Rowan protested, Lucien's ring flashed one final time. A hidden memory showed palace mages experimenting on Rowan years earlier. He and Lucien looked identical because they shared royal blood. Rowan was the emperor's missing illegitimate son and a possible heir to the throne. Evelyne already knew. The locked gates were not only keeping Rowan inside, they were keeping the empire away from him.